As a coach, you need to avoid why questions since they can be counterproductive and can easily kill the coaching. Why can be interpreted as a criticism or a personal attack, especially if you use the wrong tone of voice or body language. Just listen to these examples and think how these questions actually sound. Why did you do that? Why didn't you achieve that target? Why was this late? How could these sorts of questions make your coachee feel? Well, these sorts of why questions can make people feel stressed, defensive, and like they have to justify their actions. That's because while we don't actually mean it like that, why tends to convey judgment rather than curiosity and accusations rather than observations. So why questions often result in a defensive or negative or perhaps even a sarcastic response, which is unhelpful, time-wasting, and can lead to both confrontation and damaged self-esteem. For example, when we ask a coachee, why did you try that idea? The way that the question is structured is counterproductive. They are likely to interpret that question as you saying you think the idea was a bad thing to do. Now, it's pretty obvious that the coachee tried that idea because they believed it was a good one at the time. There isn't always a reason or a motive. They might have been dead wrong, but they still believed that they were doing the right thing at the time they decided to do it. So to your coachee, your why question can sound like you're putting them down and can easily damage their confidence, their self-esteem, and their self-worth. Why questions can also foster some of the most sarcastic responses. For example, when I got my first iPhone, I'd had it literally 3 days and I was sitting up in bed drinking a coffee and I was playing with it when all of a sudden it slipped out of my hand and into my cup of coffee. You can imagine, I was mortified. I felt sick. And straight away, do you know what my partner asked me?
Why did you do that?
As you can imagine, I was livid. I felt like saying, what a stupid question. Or, well, because I was bored and I thought I'd just waste 600 quid seeing if it would float. Needless to say, that would have been unhelpful and unproductive. However, if the question asked was, how could I make sure that it didn't slip in the future, that would have definitely been far more productive. The point is that we need to avoid the why questions that can trigger negative or sarcastic responses. So here's the secret. If you can change the negative whys into a more positive what, how, or if question, you'll generate more positive, valuable, and informative responses that will move your coachee forwards far more effectively. So instead of saying something like, why did you do this? A more productive question could be, what were you hoping to achieve by doing this? Instead of, why didn't you achieve the target? Try, what could you do to achieve the target? Instead of, why was this late? Try, how could you make sure this is on time in future? So avoid why questions that lead to negative because justification type answers that actually disengage your coachee's brain and kill the coaching because they end up leaving you nowhere to go in the conversation.